Hi, my name's Lisa. I'm a family health practitioner with the 0 to 19 service in Northumberland. Welcome to our session around introducing solid foods. With me today is my colleague from the Family Hub.
Hi, my name's Suzanne. I am a Family Hub practitioner and I work in South East locality family hubs, covering Cramlington, Blythe and Seaton Valley areas.
So today in the presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about when to start weaning. We're going to cover some general information about the different ways that parents wean, as well as some guidance around foods to offer and foods to avoid. We'll cover some safety information and we'll give some advice around things to be aware of around pre-made foods, processed foods. We'll do a little bit of salt and sugar and a little bit of dental health as well. The information given today is correct at the time of recording, so that's August 2024. We know that every baby is different, so at the end of the day, this is your choice and your baby to make the decisions about. We just want to make sure that you do it safely. So if you're still unsure after watching this presentation, please contact a health professional such as dietitian or your health visitor.
So let's look at, is your baby ready for weaning? So weaning is the gradual process of introducing food to a baby, and it's reducing your child's dependency for milk. It is an opportunity to experiment with different foods, tastes, textures, also for them practicing their tongue control, so chewing, the colours, the smells, and the amounts that they put in the mouth as well, and swallowing. So the first foods are not meant to take over from milk. So children should continue their milk for up to the age of 12 months. Once they start getting more and more on food, you will find that the milk gradually decreases with that as well. So now we're going to kind of look at what are the signs that your baby is ready for weaning, and we're going to look at that on the next slide.
What we should mention is if you do decide to continue breastfeeding, that's absolutely fine. There's no limit on how long you can do that. So when we talk about reducing the milk, it's generally around your formula-fed babies. Usually we say the formula would usually stop by about 12 months of age. But definitely give milk as and when needed for both ways of feeding babies. So we're going to look a little bit about when to start. So we know that the World Health Organization and Department of Health guidelines around weaning changed in about 2003, and it became 6 months. So we know that babies can get all the nutrition that they need for the first 6 months from the milk that they're offered. So that's breast milk or formula milk. We're looking at the outward development of a baby matching their internal development. So we're looking for those physical signs that their body's telling us that they're ready to start weaning. So babies should be able to sit upright with a little bit of a straight back. So we want that little bit of control there now. So we want good head control to be able to move their head back and forth. It does say on the slide, unsupported. If your baby has a really straight back but slides to the side, that's still a good position to be sitting in, but you might just need to put something behind them in the high chair just to keep them upright. As long as they've got that good strength and that good core control, they should be fine. As long as they're holding their head upright, they'll be able to control the food that they put in their mouth. We're looking for hand-eye coordination. So we're looking for the purpose of little one sees something in front of them, they reach out, they grab it, and they put it straight to their mouth. Lots of babies will start to do some of those skills from about 4 months, but there's not as much purpose to it. You'll find they'll pick anything up and they'll put it straight to their mouth. That's just that automatic response. So we're looking for that really coordinated response of that purpose of I really want to have that in my mouth, and we've chosen to put it in. We want them also to be able to move food around the mouth, so that's a skill they need to build on. So from around that 4-month mark, when they're putting everything into the mouth, they'll be gnawing on things, making those chewing movements, but they won't really know how to control something that comes off like if something comes off in their mouth. So we want to really encourage them to practice those skills. So by the time they get to about 6 months, they've learned to kind of move their tongue around. They won't be able to do that in the first few months, so it will take a little bit of practice for them to bite something off, chew it and swallow it and move it to the back of the mouth. So lots of opportunity to practice from about 6 months old. We know that the gag reflex will still be quite near the front of the tongue of babies before 6 months. So we don't want to force that back too quickly. That is a natural response to protect the baby. But don't worry if they do gag on something, they'll gag on milk as much as they would on solid foods. It's letting them control it. But we'll talk about croaking and gagging a little bit further on in the slides. The only thing that we mention at this point is lots of these signs we tend to see in babies born at term. So if your baby did arrive a little bit early, it might be that physically they're not able to do some of those things by about 6 months. So again, take some guidance from a health visitor or a GP. The internal development might still be ready to start weaning, but you might just need to do it at a slower pace in a different way, rather than giving maybe something solid as a first food. The advice I said today is very general advice. It's to give you the information so that you can make that informed choice about how you want to wean your little one.
So now we're looking at why 6 months. So before 6 months, a baby's digestive system is not fully developed, and digesting anything other than milk is quite difficult for them to do. Solid foods aren't packed either with enough nutrients or as breast milk is, or formula milk. The tiny tummies just need a concentrated, easily digestible source of calories and nutrients, and that's just for healthy growth. So giving food early could cause risk of infections or developing allergies within that stage as well. And again, as Lisa was saying, it varies on your child. If they are premature, it is best to seek more advice before starting, or they might show signs earlier or later than the 6 month mark.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we generally say. It's not a date on a calendar, so don't worry if by 6 months your baby isn't sitting upright yet. Some of them don't do that until nearer 7 months. Some of them will do it from nearer 5 months, 5.5 months. So try not to mark on the calendar and think that's when I'm going to start. So we're definitely looking for those external signs that little ones are ready. And like I said, it'll match that internal development that Suzanne's just mentioned, so they're able to better absorb the nutrition that they need from the food. But it's not meant to take over from the foods. There's no rush to introduce it all. So false signs. So we've talked about what we should be looking for signs of readiness, but there are so many false signs out there that parents mention to us that they've gotten from relatives, from friends who've been through the process. And so there's lots of information out there. So generally we hear lots of things that are developmentally appropriate near 4 or 5 months, but they are quite confusing signs, and people do start to think that they need food instead. So the most common ones that we hear are if little ones start to wake through the night. That can sometimes start about 4 months. There can be a little bit of a sleep regression. So you do tend to find that little ones will wake for a little period of time. If they do need more calories, they'll need more milk rather than food. That'll give them more of the nutrition. So you might feel like you need to feed them a little bit more often through the night or through the day even, for hopefully a short period of time where they're having that little bit of growth spurt and that little bit of brain development. Hopefully it should settle down though. Middle of the night is a perfect time for brains to take over, to think about the things that they've done. They don't have that understanding of day and night yet, so everything's very exciting when they wake up. They're just looking for reassurance. If your little one is having slow weight gain, again, from a calorie point of view, they're going to get that more from the milk that they're drinking rather than the food that they would be given. We don't want to decrease the high calorie content from the milk and increase the slightly lower calories that they would get from the food in the early few days, the early few weeks. If you have a small baby or a big baby, some people feel little babies need food a little bit earlier, or big babies, because they're quite big, need that food a little bit earlier. We are all different shapes and sizes. That's why we have so many different centile lines in the Red Book. Everybody grows at their own pace. There's nothing to say that a big baby wouldn't start school any earlier, a little baby wouldn't be held back. We're all just genetically different. So it's very much looking at those physical signs that we talked about. The baby's ready to have something. They will start to chew on everything. That's an absolutely normal part of development. That's as much to do with teething as it is to do with looking for food. In the early few days, putting the hand to their mouth can be a sign that little babies are hungry. But as they get a little bit older, everything goes to their mouth. They will chew on everything. They'll chew on their hand. They'll chew on toys, anything that they can pick up from the floor. So we want them to encourage that skill. We want them to learn to chew and swallow, just as I mentioned earlier. But it's not a sign on its own. So we're looking at those combination of the sitting upright, the good head control, hand-eye coordination, and the chewing all together to mean that they're actually pretty good and they're doing well and they're ready to start the food. But it is giving them lots of chance to practice. So get them used to watching you eat, because that's a really common sign. They're interested in everything that you're doing. So take advantage of that. Let them watch you putting food to your mouth, chewing and swallowing. They'll copy when they're ready and they're physically able to do that. But it isn't a sign on its own. They'll watch you do everything.
So how to start? So continue milk feeds as normal. So in the beginning, the food will actually complement the milk feeds at normal times. So initially, your child won't eat quite a lot. It'll be more hands-on, playing, exploring the food before kind of taking it in. So make sure your baby is strapped into a high chair. If not, and not secure, and not left loose on your knee, with that as well. Offer healthy family foods, that you might be having for your meals. Present the food to match babies' development, so whether it be soft cooked vegetables. You might want not too large, not too small, pureed or mashed if preferred, and details from them will be on the later slides. So Lisa, would you recommend milk feeds before or after the milk comes?
Yes, we tend to find that babies, if they are showing signs that they're hungry, they will want milk. They don't know any different. So they'll get quite cross with you if you try to present them with something that they're not used to and then they're not able to manage yet. So definitely in the first few weeks, give milk as a starter and then food at your normal meal times when you bring them to the table. Just let them have a bit of a play with the food. You'll start to gradually notice over a period of months that the milk will gradually go down as their skills develop and they eat more food at the meal times. You'll just find that they'll ask for a milk feed a little bit later or they'll take less at the next milk feed. But yeah, definitely in the beginning, start with your milk and then gradually that'll even out. So smooth foods tend to go hand in hand with parent-led weaning. So this tends to be, you would choose how much to put in a bowl. The food would be smooth, it would be pureed. You would choose how much would go on the spoon, when you would put it in the baby's mouth, when the meal started, when the meal stopped. So it's very much led by the parent. Lots of parents do feel more comfortable starting with that way so that you can have a little bit of control about how they're having the food, how much they have. So smooth foods are very much but yes, very, very, very smooth, very, very pureed. We try not to include things like lumpy pieces if you're going to do a smooth food to start with. So we want to try and make it so that it's one texture or the other. Remember to try and pace the meal if you are offering smooth pureed foods. It's a lot quicker process for you to fill a spoon and put it in baby's mouth than if they were doing it themselves. And we don't want to encourage little ones to eat too much too quickly. So as Dan mentioned, they've got a very small tummy. We are going to talk about that portion size and things a little bit later on, but we don't want to fill them up too quickly. We want to give them a chance to realise that actually they've had enough, and then we're watching for the signs that they're done with that game. We're moving on to the next stage or the next activity that day. So if they're starting to pull their face away, if they're spitting things out, we're tempted to kind of scrape it back up and push it back in. If they're not that fussed about it, that's absolutely fine. Remembering it's only a few little tastes in the first few weeks, and then it'll gradually increase the more food they have and the less milk they have. But it's very, very slow process. Try to introduce just single tastes if you can. So if you puree something up, just puree one food at a time. We tend to see jars and pouches that have got mixed food, and the baby doesn't get a chance to differentiate between one food and the other, so they won't learn which one they like, which one they don't. So it's nice to just give them an idea of what that single taste is.
It's also good to give them savoury options first before introducing sweet. And that's just because babies have a naturally sweet, they normally gravitate towards sweeter foods. So it is quite important to get them savoury foods in before that.
Yeah, definitely.
So now we're going to look at mashed foods. These are simply raw or cooked up foods that you mash using either a spoon or a fork.
So the last form of weaning that we talk about is baby-led weaning. So this has become a lot more talked about in the last few years. So this is something that is solid, that baby can pick up, fit in the hand, and will stick out at the top of the hand so that they can gnaw and chew on it. You'll tend to find if you don't give them something big enough, they don't have the skill yet to open the hand to get to what's inside, so they'll just drop the food. So it becomes really frustrating. So it's given something nice and big and chunky, so that finger shape is an ideal shape. It encourages baby's confidence. So we absolutely know that when we start the weaning process, babies want to get their hands into everything. They want to touch what we've put in front of them. If you are starting with spoon feeding, you'll probably find in the first few weeks, little ones will very quickly start to try and grab the spoon from you. Even if they don't know what to do with it, they just want to be involved. So if you are offering spoons as a form of feeding, give them their own spoon, try and load it up and let them get a chance to practice putting it to their mouth themselves. It helps build a good relationship with food. They're getting to touch it, they're getting used to being messy. They're working out which foods they like the feel of, which ones they're not as keen on, and that identifying them because they're single pieces of food in front of them. Baby chooses how much they pick up, how much they put in their mouth, and then when the game is finished and we're ready to stop. So it's very much giving them that control of they're responding to their own body. So when they're done, and they're telling you that by starting to drop things on the floor or throw things to the dog. That's a really common phrase. It lets them explore different tastes and textures. They desensitize themselves to the foods by rubbing it all over their face, so it's a very messy process. From about 6 months, babies can eat mostly most of the healthy family foods that we would encourage as a healthy balanced diet. We will talk about a little bit more specifically later on. We're trying to make it soft but not mushy if we're offering finger foods. And if it is soft, they will self-puree it. So if you overcook some veg, so things like broccoli, and it's quite soft, it'll start on their tray formed, and then they'll squish it in their fingers and they'll put it to their mouth. Lots of parents do a combination of the 3 different kinds of weaning that we've talked about. There isn't a right or wrong way to do it. What we do encourage, though, is that if you do spoon feed with mashed or pureed foods, that you start to introduce solid foods as a way of exploring within the first few weeks, just because we don't want to miss that opportunity for little ones to learn that there's solid food in their mouth and how to manage that. That is a skill they need to build on, so we don't want to put off trying that for too long. There is a kind of a window of opportunity between kind of 8 to 10 months that we want to try and encourage them to get used to putting solid things in their mouth. You will find doing it this way that babies won't eat very much the first few weeks. When you first start, they won't have the skills to bite a piece off, to chew it, to swallow it. So it will take a little bit longer for them to actually eat it, swallow it, and for you to start and see food coming through their nappies. That's fine as long as you're keeping their milk feeds up as normal. They're still getting the nutrition that they need, and they're getting lots of opportunities to explore. Again, remember, babies might not be developmentally ready for the finger foods at 6 months, so you might need to wait a little bit longer, start with purees, and then give them the opportunity to try things once they've got a little bit more core control and good head control. So this is our Eat Well guide. So you might recognise this from learning about healthy eating at school. So the Eat Well guide tends to be the recommended kind of proportions of the food that we offer for a healthy balanced diet, but we generally encourage that for 2 years and up, so for adults. it's just something as a bit of a an idea of the different kinds of food groups that we want to offer foods from, but the amounts are going to be slightly different for a baby and a toddler. So we know that babies need a lot more calories, which is why we use full fat everything. So once you do start the weaning process, from about 6 months, you can give full fat yogurts, full fat milks. Again, we'll talk about that in a little while, the specifics. But it's making sure that they've got enough of those calories. We know that toddlers are very on the go a lot, so they need more energy food. So that would be a little bit more carbohydrates, like energy foods. They might need a little bit more. But ideally, these are the kind of foods that we want to try and offer something from each of the food groups as often as you can to give them a good selection.
So now we're going to look at the portion sizes. So our baby's stomach is so small in size, and we don't want to overload them. So when we think of our baby's stomach, if you think of your child's two fists together, that is about the size of their stomach. So we're going to look at portion sizes. So the fruit and veg is 5 a day. So taking your child's hand, if you cup it a bit like this, that there is going to be 1 portion of fruit and vegetables. The bread, the pasta, the rice, the potatoes, so the carbohydrates, is 4 a day, and that is your child's full fist plus the tip of the thumb. The beans, the pulses, which is the protein, you're looking at 2 to 3 a day, which is just a flat palm. Again, this is your child's flat palm, would be 1 portion size. And the milk and the dairy would be the tops of your 2 fingers, just there. Sorry, the child's 2 fingers, and that would be 1 portion per day. Having a wide range of foods to sample different tastes and textures is ideal. However, try not, as we were saying earlier, try to do some of the savoury before the sweet, because of your child's taste buds. It can also take your child 6 to 10 times to try a food, whether they decide they like it or dislike it. Also, later in life, what you'll find is your child's taste buds may change, and then they might actually enjoy some of the foods that they didn't like when they're younger, and vice versa, with that as well.
We definitely know that when little ones get to about the 2-year mark-ish, they get a little bit more particular about the things they want to eat, and that is a lot to do with they're trying to exert that authority, that control about the food that they eat. So it's really important just to keep offering, keep giving them an opportunity to see the foods so that they recognise it, and then hopefully at some point they will continue to pick it up again. Again, if you have any concerns about your little one eating at any age, just give us a ring with the health visiting team. We can have a little bit of a chat about that. So we know that some people do start to think about weaning a little bit earlier than 6 months. So we just want to make sure that if you are offering anything, that you're going to do it safely. So if you do decide to offer foods before that 6 months mark, before little ones are sitting upright properly and have that good head control, it would need to be pureed food, and it's basically fruit and veg only, the only safe things. So there's several things on the screen that we'd encourage you to avoid. So things like gluten, wheat, any kind of nuts or seeds, fish and shellfish, eggs, liver, cow's milk, even in cooking before 6 months, and any kind of soft unpasteurized cheese, just because their digestive system can't manage those foods, the bacteria and things that might be in them.
So now we're looking at foods and drinks to avoid after 6 months. So after 6 months, you can offer a much more variety of a diet, but there is still a few things that you would need to kind of avoid. So that's your salt. On the packet, it may say sodium, which can be found in processed foods, gravies, sauces, things like that as well. Obviously, the sugar and the artificial sweeteners, this is for our teeth, as well as kind of our body digesting it. So that is your brown sugar, your things like your glucose or anything with out on the end of it. Things like honey, because before the age of 1, it could upset their stomach with that as well. Try to avoid choking hazards. So things like nuts, seeds, hard sweets, lollies, hot dogs, round foods, things like cherry tomatoes, grapes, large berries. Try to cut them into half from a standing position and then in half again. So then you've got a quarter before giving it to your little ones. Any low-fat foods needs to kind of be avoided until at least the age of 2-year-old. All foods should be full fat, so that's full fat yogurts, full fat milk. You're looking at your high fiber foods, so be very cautious about offering too much in one day, and things like Weetabix for breakfast, wholemeal lunch for wholemeal bread for lunch can be a bit too much for your child. Things like the rice milk, because it has arsenic, and also your stimulants, so your coffee, your energy drinks as well. Cow's milk, given as a drink, should be avoided. However, you can cook with this from the age of 6 months. So you can put it in your mashed potatoes, things like that as well.
And your
Trying to
cereal
match.
as well.
Oh, what did I say?
No, it's all right. I'm cereal. That's fine.
Yes, I'm with cereal. Also trying to match foods to baby's development. So things like peas and sweet corn might be better when the child is developed in the Pensa grip as well. Try to offer a variety of foods from all the food groups that have different colours, different tastes, different textures, and try to give as many opportunities as possible to practice with these. We do have some family recipes on hand, either through the app or through the Henry website, which do change seasonally. And that can give you some ideas for healthy meals and snacks. And they are available for you to print as well.
There is a lot more variation that you can introduce into baby's diet if you wait until that 6-month mark. Like I said, you're thinking about it as a healthy, balanced diet, so it can change how you think about foods for your family. So you'll start to maybe prepare foods a little bit differently because you don't want to have to be preparing different meals for different people. It just makes it easier if everyone's eating the same food, and if it's done early enough, little ones do learn to like a lot of normal family foods with a healthy, balanced diet. So it's just giving them the opportunity to practice that. So a lot of people, when we start to introduce foods, start worry that they might develop an allergic reaction to some of the foods that is offering because they've never had these things before. So if you're a very highly allergic family, we'd encourage that you seek some advice before you're introducing some foods. So have a chat with your GP again or your dietitian. If you start to see any of these allergic reactions, seek advice again, either the GP or through 111 or 999, depending on the severity of the reaction. So a lot of these things can be associated with common illnesses anyway. So it's trying to be trying to look to see when these illnesses have developed, these reactions have developed. If it's just after a meal time, there might be a link to the food that they've just eaten. But it can be quite scary, and but we wouldn't encourage that you avoid foods completely either. So we know that if you wait too long to introduce some foods, it can raise the probability that they might develop a reaction to that. It's just being cautious. So if there are certain foods that you're worried about, maybe don't offer them as a first food. Let them establish weaning for a little while and then introduce the food in the room, then maybe on their skin, maybe a tiny piece on their lip, just so that you're gradually building up that that tolerance to it, or that kind of opportunity to see if they are going to have a reaction to it. But remember, always get some advice if you've got any concerns at all about any allergies in the family.
Also, if you're worried about doing it by yourself, please get someone to sit with you, just to kind of coach you through it and just to make sure that you're not by yourself there as well.
Yeah.
So now we're going to look at, is my baby gagging or choking? So parents sometimes don't know kind of the difference between the both of them. So we're going to look at these in kind of a little bit more depth. So choking is where your child is silent. Your baby will be silent. Baby will not be breathing. The airways will be blocked. They may end up becoming a little bit blue in colour. With children with darker skin, their gums and fingertips may appear blue. If that was to happen, perform first aid. There are videos on YouTube on how to treat a choking baby. Also, your local family hub should be offering some first aid classes. So it would be a case of just giving them a ring and asking if they've got any locally that you can go along to. Also, we've got the gagging. So gagging is a process that babies need to go through. They need to learn about eating. The airways are mostly always clear. Baby will be making noises, whether it be retching or kind of trying to gasp. Baby is still breathing, so their face is a normal colour. They may appear a bit red, in babies with lighter skin tones. Yeah, baby's eyes might be watering as well, and they might push the tongue forward or in and out of their mouth. Try to stay calm. I know it can be very scary, especially if you're a little bit anxious at the best of times, but try to remain calm, stay with baby, and allow it to pass. You'll know if you need to then step in. Just by staying with baby and being alert and watching to see what they do will give you that indication if it moves from a gagging to a choking as well.
It is a really common anxiety around weaning, so we absolutely acknowledge that. And again, like we said in the last slide, if you're really concerned about this stage of weaning, do it with somebody else there. So don't do it on your own when you're introducing foods to start with. Do it when your partner's there or a relative or a friend, just so that you've got somebody else to help if you need to. But it's a really common occurrence. But I think I mentioned earlier on, babies can cough and gag on fluid, just as much as they can on food. It's about how much control they have. And remember, the gag reflexes a lot further forward in a baby's tongue. It will gradually move back after the weaning process has been going on a little while, and they'll control the food a little bit more. So we are going to try and show you. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just about to say the same thing.
A video. So the video that we've got today is from the British Red Cross. Fingers crossed this will work. If it doesn't work today, or if you want to watch it again, we will talk about our app at the end of the presentation. We do have it available on our app, at the Children's Health Services app, or you can find it on YouTube.
Today I'm going to show you how to help a baby under the age of 1 if they are choking. What I mean by choking is that if something has got stuck and it's in their mouth and it's slipped back and it is blocking off the tube that they breathe through, we call it the airway. So it might be when they are eating, when they are starting to wean and they've got new textures and foods that they're learning to eat, but it can be right from a newborn baby. Curdled milk or mucus can block off the tube that they breathe through. It would be very easy for you to tell if your baby is choking, because they wouldn't be able to cough or cry and they wouldn't be able to breathe, so they wouldn't be making any of their normal gurgly sounds. If this was happening, then the first thing you need to do is just support your baby's head and tip them forwards, and I'm going to give them what we call back blows. With your baby in this position, gravity is on your side. You can see their head is lower than their bottom. And then with the heel of my hand, I'm going to give them a blow between their shoulder blades. So I'll demonstrate for you now. If it's not come out, then I'm just going to try again. And keep going until it comes out. What the back blows do is they create a vibration and pressure within the airway, which will hopefully force the object out. If they've not worked and I've done 5 back blows, then there is something else that you can try. So turn your baby over, supporting their head still, and still keeping them resting on your knee. And then in this position, with 2 fingers right in the center of my baby's chest, I'm going to give them what we call chest thrusts. And it's a very quick, fast push down. If it's not come out, again, just keep going. What the chest thrusts do is they will hopefully squeeze the air out of their lungs and push the object out of the way.
So manufactured.
Sorry, just jumping in before we start on the next slide. So something we'd always say is if you have had any kind of choking incident with your little one, please get them checked out, just to make sure that they're doing okay afterwards. We wouldn't want them to kind of have any effects after something like that happened. Sorry. Okay, your turn.
So now we're going to look at kind of the water content. So manufactured foods often have a higher water content than those that we make ourselves. When we tend to make food, even if we are blending it, we may add a little bit of water. However, some of the packaging on these waters, as you can see, is a lot higher than the actual food that's in them. So the more water that's added to the products, the less the food and nutrition your baby will get. So before offering packaged foods, it would be a good idea just to check the labels and remember that they are processed foods and shouldn't be eaten for every meal time.
Okay, so we're going to look a little bit at how to make some of these foods and the differences between some of the foods that you can make yourself. So the example that we have is a pouch that has broccoli, pears and peas. So it looks pretty similar. There is more of a vivid green to the product that you would create yourself. And actually the amounts of the ingredients will be different as well. So you wouldn't generally put a high content of pear in a mixture of food that you're mixing with broccoli. So some of the mixtures that you see are quite unusual. They do usually have something filling, so something like baby rice or something sweet like pear, and it does tend to give little ones that little bit of extra sweet taste, which they like. They'll eat a little bit more of that. You'll say that they like it, and then you'll buy more of it. So when you make it yourself, don't feel like you need to mix those things in together. The cost difference is quite significant if you are making it in bulk. So for 40 grams, it would cost you 37 pence per portion, and it'd be 15 pence if you bought those things, and you would have probably a lot more to offer on a different day as well. So it's a little bit more cost effective. We totally get that it isn't ideal that you make food from scratch all of the time. We're just saying to try and look at doing a little bit of that when you can.
Some of the foods have low energy density and high volume. So as you can see in this picture, the Ella's Kitchen cauliflower, cheese and butter beans has a bigger kind of portion size than that of the homemade. However, the portions may look smaller, but actually when you look at the nutritional values, the homemade has just as much, if not more, nutritional value than that of the processed foods. And again, the price difference is exceptional, really. For the price of the Ella's Kitchen, it would be a £1.30 per portion, whereas a homemade portion, if you were doing it in bulk, would be 23 pence.
And it's always remembering as well that when you're using a jar or a pouch, you do need to decant some of the food. So when Suzanne was talking about portion size earlier, just because the bowls that you can buy for babies are quite large doesn't mean they need that size portion. So to remembering that whatever's in the pouch or the jar might not be just one portion, it might be more than that. So decant a little bit out, give them that little bit, and store it in the fridge if you wanted to use it again. So you're not kind of double dipping into the jar and putting bacteria back into the jar. So yeah, we know commercial foods can be expensive. It's a multi-million-pound business to produce all of these foods for babies. If you go into the supermarket, you see that there's a huge aisle with the products that you can buy, but they are quite expensive. It does add up a lot of the pouches and the jars that you can buy. And just because it's made for a baby doesn't mean it's the best thing and the best choice. It is convenient. So we do acknowledge that there are going to be times where you don't feel like you can offer something that you're having, but it is a lot better for your baby if you can offer something that you've prepared yourself. You know exactly what's gone into it. Anything that has gone into a factory, so a pouch or jar, have had some kind of process done to it to make it last a little bit longer on the shelves. So they do have additives and things in that as well. So just again, as an example, you can buy a full bag of the carrots, an equivalent that you could buy one pouch. So you would get a lot more for your money if you pureed up carrot than just having the one pouch. You can use frozen and tinned food. You just need to be careful about the salt content if you are using tinned vegetables. But with fruit, we encourage you to use fruit that is in a juice rather than in a syrup. And then it's natural sugars rather than processed syrups and things.
So vitamins. So from birth, all breastfed babies should be given a daily supplement of vitamin D, which is approximately 8.5 to 10 mcg. If your baby's having more than 500 millilitres, which is about a pint of first infant formula, they don't need a supplement. And that's because the formula is already fortified with vitamin D. If you are breastfeeding, you can also take the vitamins yourself, which will then go into kind of your milk supply, as well as giving them to the babies too. So why do babies need them? It's recommended due to the lack of vitamin D from the sun in northern England. So as the child increases their food intake and reduces the milk, then they might need them for that. And also the cow's milk. So cow's milk from the age of 12 months does not contain the added vitamins needed. Formula-fed babies won't need them until the formula stops, which is around the 1-year-old mark as well.
So if you are entitled to a Healthy Start, you can claim vitamins for free from your local family hubs. If you take in your blue card, Healthy Start card, they just need the long number from that. They'll take that from you, and then they'll supply you with either the drops or the tablets. If you're not sure if you're eligible for Healthy Start or you haven't heard of it before, have a look on the Healthy Start website. They'll give you the criteria and let you know if you are entitled to that. You can use it for other things in the supermarket as well. Something we forgot to mention though is don't worry if your little one is still on the first stage of milk. There are lots of other formulas out there that advertise that they're better for grown-up children. So as the children grows, they'll add different things, different nutrition to the milk. Babies are absolutely fine on the first stage milk until a year. They don't need to change onto the follow-on formulas. We know that there's quite often a lot of extra sugar in some of the follow-on formulas. And again, they get a taste of it. It's then really tricky to get them off. As long as your baby is happy and healthy on their first stage milk, you don't ever need to change it until you're ready to stop.
So now we're going to look at oral health. So parents sometimes ask, when can we start brushing with teeth? You can actually start brushing your baby's teeth as soon as they start to come through. Use a baby toothpaste with the tiniest amount of fluoride toothpaste. So for that, it would be 1000 pp with the fluoride in. For 3 years plus, it's 1450 pp and can be pea-shaped. So usually on the baby toothbrushes, there's usually a different marked section, be 2 or 3 of the bristles. That is actually the portion of toothpaste that your baby needs. It's a very small amount. We do say to brush twice a day, once in the morning and generally once in the evening as well. And parents will need to possibly assist little ones up to the age of 10 years. It is very important to get them used to cleaning their teeth, and that's when our teeth form and grow as well. And usually what happens to baby teeth also happens to your adult teeth. So it's important to look after them from the very beginning. We're trying to see use very little of the dummies and the bottle use, just because these can actually impact your teeth and how they grow through. So they might end up growing around the dummy or around the teeth as well. We're going to also discuss cups later on with you as well. So try to reduce the dummies from around the 6 months of age, and try not to put anything other than milk and water into your baby's bottle. Again, the concentrated sugars may then impact your child's teeth with that. Also, if you are looking for a dentist, it is quite important to kind of, if you don't know where you can find NHS dentists, you can look on the NHS website.
Something to mention about toothpaste is you can get lots of different variations of flavours of toothpaste, and lots of people tend to use those if they find that babies don't like the strength of the other toothpaste that they offer. But actually, adult toothpaste doesn't come in different flavours, and it's really important for babies to start to learn that it has that kind of flavour. Baby's toothpaste is a little bit milder, so it isn't quite as strong a taste. But try to avoid your flavour toothpaste if you can help it, and get them used to just using the normal toothpaste that we would be encouraging them to use for the rest of their life. So sugar and tooth decay. So that's a lovely image on the screen, isn't it? We just put that there just to make you aware that actually it is still a problem, that little ones are still having to have teeth removed because they've had too much sugar in their diet, and it is still an issue in this country. So we want to just highlight the fact that, as Suzanne said before, we don't encourage you to have anything apart from milk or water in a baby bottle. As soon as your baby has stopped having formula, you can get rid of the baby bottle completely. If they're willing to use a cup from 6 months, which we encourage you to start to practice with, you can give milk in a cup if you wanted to. Again, it gets rid of the teat bottle and the pooling behind the teeth. So we encourage them to practice with the cups from an early age. So try to avoid anything like sugary drinks, anything that sits on our teeth and is sticky, so things like lollipops, sweets. We wouldn't encourage you to give that from this age anyway, because it could be a choking hazard. But anything that is sugary that spends a lot of time in the mouth, so juices tend to be quite common, can cause harm to the teeth. Sugars that are in fruit is naturally occurring sugars, so we don't class them as a sugar attack, because the sugar is in little casings inside the fruit, and it isn't released until it's digested in the stomach. What we do say though is fruit can be acidic, so that the acid still can affect the teeth. So it's just being cautious about how often that they have that. Dentists recommend that children and adults actually don't have any more than about 4 sugar attacks a day. So that would be 3 main meals and maybe one other time during the day. So that means that in between those meals, little ones' mouths would get a chance to recover, so your saliva would neutralize some of those acids and clean your mouth a little bit, so there's not constant attacks in the mouth. We would encourage you to get used to little one going to the dentist. So even if you can't get registered, because it is a bit of a problem, take little ones with you to the dentist, or if a relative's going just for a checkup, let them go and have a look and get used to the sights and the sounds and the smells.
So looking at cups, so type of cups we do recommend is free-flowing cups, the open cups, sippy cups, and doily cups. If you are going to give juice, please make sure it is sugar-free. Things that are marked with no added sugar may still contain sugars. And it would be recommended just to give your child water. So as you can see on the screen, the Capri Sun in the blackcurrant, per 100 grams is 12.2 grams of sugar, which is equivalent to 3.1 sugar cubes, which is quite a large amount of sugar for any one time.
I think what happens is, those the sugar that's in fruit that's in that little case, as soon as it's had a process done to it, so it's been squashed, it's been blended, it's had something done to it in a factory to make the Capri Sun, it breaks open those little cases, so the natural fruit does then come to the surface and become a sugar attack. So to be really cautious about those taglines on the products that say no added sugar, they will still contain sugar. It's just a slightly different kind of sugar, but it's still classed as a sugar attack. Dan, do you want to talk through this one? Because this is your slide, isn't it?
So when looking at processed foods and foods that we buy from the shop, sometimes it is quite nice just to see how much sugar and how healthy a product is by reading the labels. So at the top in the left-hand corner, we've got the traffic light system. Now this gives a good, accurate kind of reading of if something is too high or too low or medium. Now this looks at an adult's portion. So as you can see, the red means it is extremely high. So you would try to avoid that. The green means you're good to go, and the orange and the amber means just be very careful. It's literally, it's not good, it's not bad, it's just in the medium as well. Some manufacturers might just have a proper label on the back, so we've also put a picture up on that too. So as you can see from this one, per 100 gram and per pack, just be mindful that if you do have a product that you are looking at, it may say per 100 gram, but the pouch itself might be 200 grams. So due to it being 2 portions, so then you would have to double that amount if you were eating it all together. So this one, as you can see, the salt content is quite low. It's 0.01 grams, 0.5 grams, which is still quite low for fiber and protein. However, when it comes to the carbohydrates and the sugars, this product is really bad. So that definitely would be in the red. It would be 17.7 grams for carbohydrates, 14.9 grams, which is sugar. So when looking at the recommended sugar intake, so for children aged 7 years to 10, they should have no more than 24 grams of free sugars a day. which is the equivalent of 6 sugar cubes. Also, the 4 to 6 would be no more than 19 grams of free sugar, which would be 5 cubes. And the under 4s, there's no actual guideline limit for this age, but it is recommended that they avoid any sugar or sweetened drinks or foods with that too. So what is a free sugar? A free sugar is a sugar that's added to a food or drink if the sugar that is already in kind of the honey, the syrup, and the fruit juice. These are free because the cells are not in.
It's not inside the cell. So
It's
as
not
I
inside the
mentioned,
cells.
it's like I mentioned before, wasn't it? So it was
Yes.
the little casings that that sugar comes in when they're in fruit. It bursts open. So that makes them free sugars instead.
Yeah.
And actually, it's not a legal recommendation, isn't it? Is it to have
No.
the traffic light system on baby foods and toddler foods? So it's been really cautious, and they don't make it easy for you to identify some of these foods being good or bad.
And again, as we were mentioning earlier, then children are naturally going to gravitate to the sweeter foods, and then you're going to keep continuing to buy them. So as well as that, it is a marketing ploy as well, just to keep you from kind of keep you buying their products.
Yeah.
So now we're going to look at maximum salt intake. Now, under 1 year old is less than a gram of salt. 1 to 3, as you can see, is no more than 2 grams. 4 to 6 years, no more than 3 grams. 7 to 10 years, no more than 5 grams. And 11 years plus, no more than 6 grams, which is roughly about 1 teaspoon a day.
And if you think about some of the foods that you offer, it will be naturally in some of these foods, so they'll hit that maximum without even having a lot of processed foods. So it is really, really being cautious about the kinds of foods that little ones are offered. Okay, so we're just going to look at a few examples of some of the packaging and the comparison between some of the foods that you can buy for little ones. So there are a lot of branded products aimed at children. So they look bright, they're colourful, they attract their attention, or that they have characters on them to make it fun. Just again, I think I mentioned before, just because it's made for children doesn't mean it's the best thing that they should be having. So just looking at the comparison between an ordinary bag of porridge oats and our Frosties, the sugary cereal. So the huge difference, and we don't need to give them that sugary cereal. Porridge oats is absolutely fine. It's the same with things like baby rice. You don't particularly need to give baby rice. There's nothing extra nutritionally in that. You can give porridge oats, and it's a lot cheaper, a lot easier to make. So it's
just
a look at that comparison.
Sorry, Lisa. I just want to add as well, looking at the grams. So underneath, the Frosties is only for 30 grams, whereas the porridge oats is for 50 grams. So it shows you the difference between them. So let's look at added sugar. So remember that so for children up to the age of 2, it is recommended that they should have very little or no added sugar. Children over 2 should have no more than 25 grams, which is equivalent of 6 teaspoons of added sugar daily. We've also just discussed the salt content, which for under 1s is less than 1 gram per day, and for 1 to 3 year olds, it's less than 2 grams a day. So as you can see on the bottom left hand side, all of the traffic light systems, there is no colours, and that's because this is not a legal requirement, and they can catch you out without putting the colours on there too. So the jelly in the top does say low sugar. When you look at it, it is 0.1 sugar cubes, so that is sugar free. If they were saying no added sugar, it means they're not adding any in, but there may already be sugar in the product. The Barney Sponge Bear cakes, as you can see, is 1.9 sugar cubes, which is quite scary because that means it's 7.4 grams of sugar.
And looking at some of these products, we're not saying you need to avoid everything that has sugar in it. It's just being really cautious about how often little ones get the opportunity to have this. And actually, the more often they get these foods offered to them, the more they have a taste for them and the more they crave them. If it's just something that they have every now and again as part of their normal balanced diet, it just becomes a normal part of their meal. So if you want to give a biscuit, give it as part of their dessert, as part of their meal. The sugar attack is then happening all at once, and it's just a normal part of their dessert after they've finished the food that you've offered them. But then the next day they might have a yogurt as their dessert, or they might have an apple the next day. It's just being sensible and everything in moderation. So looking at yogurts, again, there's a lot of variation between the kinds of yogurts that you can buy for little ones. A lot of them will have added sugar into them, and again, they make it really appealing to children with animals and cartoons and things on them. If you give a basic Greek-style natural yogurt, that's a lot healthier, there's a lot less sugar in it, and you get a lot more for your money as well. So you can, again, section that out. So it's just being kind of savvy about with the products that you pick when you're in the supermarket, not just immediately going for the ones aimed at children. Oh, can't hear you, Suzanne.
Sorry.
Go
When looking at tomato ketchup, it does have 3.4 grams of sugar in, which is 0.9 sugar cubes, which we may find you think is actually not too bad. However, we do recommend that it's 15 milliliters, so 1 tablespoon is the recommended portion size for the tomato sauce.
And it's just remembering that they don't need tomato sauce. Anything extra that you add to a food changes the flavour, and we want little ones to understand what real food tastes like. So try to avoid, sauces, gravies, anything like that. They don't need that as extra. It just changes the taste. So just a little bit of a summary just for the end. So weaning in general, prepare for the mess. If it's a nice day or if it's warm in your house, it's sometimes easier to just strip them off and have them in a nappy, and then wash them afterwards, clean their hands afterwards. Remember, of course, though, to let them have opportunity to make a mess. So try not to wash their hands as they're eating their meal. I know it can sometimes be a bit much for people to manage if they don't like mess themselves, but we don't want little ones to learn that it gets yucky, and we don't want that on your hands. We want them to enjoy the feeling of the food and to get used to that. So wash their hands at the beginning and then wash their hands when they're finished the process. Continue offering your milk feeds as normal. So that's your breast milk or your formula milk, and it is very much going to be complementary to the diet. It will slowly increase over a period of time. It's not going to be an overnight thing. And again, remembering that 6 months is not a date on the calendar. Go at your own pace at around about that mark when you're seeing the signs that your baby is sitting upright, reaching and grabbing, making those chewing movements, able to kind of trying to swallow some of the food they're putting in their mouth. And yeah, food should be fun. It's developmental learning activity. They're going to get so much out of that exploration of the food. Let them come to the table, let them see what you're doing, let them copy you, and make it a family occasion. Even if you're not having a full meal, it's still a good idea to sit and have something when your little one's eating, just so that they get a chance to have that social opportunity, and that'll help as they get a little bit older as well. It'll encourage them to eat, because if they see you eating, they'll want to copy that.
Also with the mess, the shower curtains are really, really good to put underneath your baby's high chair, and that hopefully will capture all the mess. So then all you would need to do is then put it in the wash. So then it gives that a lot less kind of anxiousness and nervousness about the children making a mess as well. So now we're going to look at the Start for Life. So some top tips for weaning can be found on the Start for Life website. and their YouTube page. You can also get some recipe ideas and lots of other good resources and videos, helpful videos as well. And we've also got the family hubs. So the family hubs may offer weaning sessions, and these are part of the Henry programme, which we have covered a little bit in the portion sizes today. And you can access that at our Family Hub website. We do also have an app which you can get on the Play Store or the App Store as well. There is lots of top tips for healthy recipes for eating and reducing solids on the Henry website, which is just on the right-hand side of your screen. And also there's the First Steps Trust, which can give you ideas on healthy snacks, packed lunches, including vegan diets as well. So give your local family hub a call to see when the next weaning session is available if you would like to attend.
They are also on Facebook and Instagram, aren't they? Just like we are.
Yeah,
So
and they're all free as well.
Yeah, free service available in the hubs, isn't it? So we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we have a new YouTube page, and we do use our app for a lot of signposting to information that we would class as kind of reputable information. So it's looking at the websites that are trustworthy. So anything that is associated with NHS is usually being fact checked. So just making sure that you're looking at reputable sources when you're looking for information. So we do have access to lots of links on our Go and Healthy Northumberland app. So if you search for it on the App Store or the Play Store, it is Children's Health Services. We also have a chat function on there. So if you have any questions and you wanted to ask a health professional, so that can either be a school nurse or a health visitor, there's also always someone on duty every day, and you can send a message that way. Or you can contact us on our Spock number, but that should be in your red book, and that's again accessible on the app. But hopefully that has been useful to listen to today. If you have any questions following this, please get in touch with your health visiting team. But thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Bye.